walk through these books. Oh, the broadcast just went live. So that we can have this book study so that people can come around this conversation and just talk about it. I'm not trying to argue with people. I'm over trying to defend my position on anything. I just want to have a conversation where I can grow to understand people, and people can hopefully grow to understand, my position, and we can learn one another more. I think when you know people better, then you respect people and you love on people better, and life just looks different. So, so that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. And then we can talk more about the 3 books and all that. I really, really appreciate this opportunity to be on just to talk about it. And so that people in the city can see that something's happening. It's not going to be comfortable. I can guarantee you that, Greg, like there's going to be some points when it's not going to be comfortable for the people that are involved in it, but we don't grow from comfort. We grow from tension. We grow from, those things.
I think you need to say what you just said again. We don't grow from what?
We don't grow from comfort. Back in my, when I first started working at Reese Puffer, we had a superintendent, and he had what he called the Shoestring Concept. And in the Shoestring Concept, he said that your shoes have to be tied in order for them to work. And either they're going to have the right amount of tension, or if they're too tight, they're going to cut off your circulation and hurt you. Or if they're too loose, they're going to cause blisters and your shoes are going to fall off. And I've grabbed a hold of that analogy for a long time to really understand that we need tension in our life. We need things like that stretch us and grow us.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, is it too late to get into the study?
No, it's not. It's not. We are starting this Sunday. So I know there's a couple people that won't be there on Sunday, but nonetheless, we're starting this Sunday, and no, it's not too late. I really, it ain't never going to be too late, because I want people to be a part. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. The other thing is we haven't exhausted the 25 slots that we have for a couple reasons. One is because some people have bought their own book. So you get the book for free if you get within the number of books that I've been able to purchase. You get the book for free, but some people either already had it, or they're like, I'll buy my own, and that book can go to somebody else. So I still have, 10 or 12 books left. And if we don't use those books during this study, I'm going to do the study again and just offer the books again.
Okay.
But yeah, but there is room. There's room. We are doing it in person, which I think has prevented some people from coming. And I respect that. I completely get it. I've done this book study. This is the cool thing. I did this book study at Reese Puffer Schools this fall, and we had about 27 people that joined it, but we did it virtually. And it was good, but it wasn't as good as it could have been had we been able to be face-to-face and share our thoughts, opinions, and ideas, looking at body language as well as just voices, and people couldn't disengage, when things got tough and whatnot. If the weather's permitting, we're going to do some of the meetings outside. Why not?
Mm-hmm. Talk about some of the books that we'll, I'm going to do it too. I won't be there this Sunday because I have family coming in.
Sure.
But talk to us about some of the books.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if I would have been thinking better, I wouldn't have even started this week because of the holiday. But after I had put it out and I committed, I didn't want to change that. So the first book that we're going to do, and we're going to do them in a series, is called So You Want to Talk About Race, and Ijeoma Oluo is the author. I actually have the book in front of me. And so this is the book, and this is the first one. One of the interesting things that happened was when I was charged to do this kind of work out here at work, I went through and looked and vetted a bunch of books. And this particular book, I think, is a great start, because the second book we're going to do is called White Fragility. And White Fragility is probably the most popular book on racism out right now.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Hold on, because what we're going to have to do is we're going to start the show all over again.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just told we're just having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so we're going to start the show again. So my producer, thank you, Lady J, and PA for working to get this started. So tell me what I need to do, and we'll start it all over again. Right? Lady J, you there? Somebody's going to tell me how we're going to start the show again.
Right.
People
I'm
out there,
wondering,
sorry.
am I going to get a new StreamYard?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Torn Into, your show for news, information, and more. Today is March 28th, 2021. I am your host, Gregory T. Roberts. Thank you for listening to the program. You can also catch us on Facebook as well on WVS 103.7 to be M106. Today's weather is 70% chance of rain. It is cloudy, high of 54, low of 43. Saturday, it is supposed to be sunny, high of 70, low of 41 degrees. Sunday, partly cloudy, high of 66, low of 39. Monday, Memorial Day, 68 degrees high, low of 50. Congratulations to the class of 2021. For the people that are watching and the people that heard before, I sent out an apology to anyone that had graduated, especially our high school and college people. I apologize for the parents, and us older adults that let politics come in the way of screwing with your life. When a pandemic, instead of putting all the people and the brightest minds together, no matter if you have an RD or I by your name, we didn't get together to solve a problem. We fought. And yet you wanted to go to school. You wanted to see your friends. And we screwed up. I'm sorry for the language that you've had to hear in your household. I'm sorry for houses that were divided. I'm sorry for all of these things that happened. And all you wanted to do was just be a teenager. And all you wanted to do was see your friends. And the people that were in college, all you wanted to do was go to college the American way. But yet we fought, and yet we're still fighting. And it is too bad, and this country needs to change. Speaking of fighting, the bipartisan bill to investigate January 6th insurrection fell short in the Senate. The GOP, they did it. They made it happen. 54-35 was the vote. 6 Republicans voted for it. You can vote how you vote, but here's my problem. How is it that 9 Republicans and 2 Democrats did not vote? How is it that they did not vote? Where were they? I can understand like some people may have a problem, an emergency, but you are sent to Washington to take on the hard issues. So how in the world is it that you did not vote today? So it's been a hard couple of days, weeks, and year for us in this country. And we have to remember that what's going on and I said the county of Muskegon. You notice I didn't say the city of Muskegon. You notice that I didn't say Muskegon Heights. Just because things don't happen on your block and it's quiet on your block, it's not time for you to sit on your lazy boy. And what happens in one place affects everyone. You are your neighbor's keeper. You are your brother's keeper. Muskegon County is in a crisis right now, and we need everyone's help. With that said, I'm going to bring him on again. He's no stranger. He's one of my analysts. He's one of guys I can talk to about a lot of things. I'm happy. He's one of the twins, one of the deuces. Pastor Joe Lane is no stranger to the show. How you doing, sir? Again.
I'm well. You have the better looking twin on today.
Sir, we were talking, it's been a hard year plus.
Yeah, man, it's been a hard year. It's been a hard 49 for me in some regards, just being an African-American male, and just living life. But this year has been tough. It's been very introspective and like looking at things and how things have shaken out and what the reality of the world is.
Isn't it amazing that we have a chance that you can do something about racism? I was looking at polls, and depending on where you come from, that some people believe that there's no racism, or just, that it doesn't exist.
Sure.
Or another poll says that racism exists. It's amazing. It blows my mind. You have grown to trust me over the years. Most of you, some of you don't. Let me tell you, as a Black man in America, there is racism. Pastor Joe, you want to talk about that?
Well, I think that the real issue is it's perspective and it's life experience. So if I say that there's racism in the world, then you either are going to deny that truth of my experience, or you're going to at least hear me. You may not experience what I experience, but that doesn't discount that it's not an experience. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the place that I come from. I say to people a lot of times, I don't ask you to understand me. I just ask you to believe me. Just don't think I'm lying to you when I talk about different things. And so, so that's kind of what's brought me to this place that I'm at, Greg.
Well, this is to be clear, because a lot of people say, well, you guys are just throwing out the race card. No, we're not throwing out the race card. There is systemic racism. There are problems in this country.
Yeah, I want to be the last person to pull that card and use it. I think that I've worked hard to do the things that I've done in my life and to become what I've become, whatever that might be. And I've also watched where I have had to work really hard and many times extra hard in order for those things to happen. Not only that, the fact that the system itself has systems in place to address the fact that there's probably some things that I don't get because of the system, articulates that there's a problem.
Well, we were talking before the show. You and I get it. We get it both ways. I get it because of I married the woman that I love, that happens to be white. I live in a neighborhood that is very close to dear to my heart. And I get it for that. I coach kids of all different races and colors. I get it for that. I get it because of the church that I go to. I get it for that. Talk about you.
Yeah. So I get it because I pastor a church that is diverse. And actually, if we did the data, I have more white members at our church than we do Black. And so I'm too white or whatever that means. I've only worked at 2 different schools in this area, and both of them happen to be predominantly white schools. Now, I want to put some perspective to that. So I catch it. I've been called an Uncle Tom. I've been called a sellout. I've been called all these names, and I'm like, y'all. First of all, y'all don't even know me. Like nobody knows the hood in me, right? I grew up in Lansing on the South Side. Raised, my aunt babysat me in the projects. That's just how I lived. And
if you want to know the hood in us,
right? But here's the deal: I'm not ever going to apologize, even if I didn't have any of that. If I grew up in the suburbs and whatever, I'm not going to apologize for that, because you can't make me more or less Black because of where I lived and how I grew up or what school I went to. I went to a predominantly white college. Before Michigan State, y'all. I know everybody's like, wait, you went to, but you can't make me more or less Black because of my experiences. I'm a Black man. And trust me, that is not lost on me. But here's the perspective that I think is interesting. So I work at a predominantly white school. We have 14% minority here. And some of the work that I do is in diversity. And I apologize for my screen being dark too. I just grabbed the quickest room I could find. I do all this work, but one of the things that I know is I could work at a school that's predominantly African-American or predominantly minority, and I would be giving back to my people. And I don't have a problem with that. I love that idea. But I also know that I want people who don't look like me, and the few people who are out here that do look like me, to see somebody in leadership, somebody with positional authority. That when Barack Obama was elected president, his campaign slogan was "Yes, we can." And I heard somebody share with me. They said he said that to two different people. He was saying to America, "Yes, we can," but he was also saying to African Americans, "Look, yes, we can." And I want students, and I know for a fact that because I've been in the positions I've been in, there are people who have said, you know what, I see you doing that, which means it's available for me. And so I don't apologize for that at all.
Okay. So I'm very proud. The radio station is a media sponsor.
Yes,
something that you came up with, and talk about the Citywide book study.
Yeah, so I was struggling, and at the beginning of this year, we did a book study here at the school district, and it went really, really well. I mean, there was about 27 people who participated, and it was awesome. So the Muskegon County Community Foundation had their grant cycle go out for mini grants, and I just was being pushed and challenged in my own heart. I think the Lord was saying to me, here's your opportunity. So I reached out and I wrote a grant, and first grant I've ever written, and I received the grant funding for 3 book studies. So we're going to start one this Sunday. And the first book is, thank you. The first book is called So You Want to Talk About Race. And that's by Ijoma Alu'u. And she wrote this book, and it's really a dialogue about racial stuff. And it's a real genuine conversation. We're starting with this book. I think this book is really non-confrontational. When you look at it, the conversation of race is confrontational. The conversation of brown racism and white privilege and white supremacy and oppression and all that stuff it makes people defensive, because you have to look at yourself and see if any of this stuff is me, is about me. And so that's going to happen. But we want to be in situations where we can walk alongside people, learn some folks, get a better understanding of where people's perspectives are and where they come. And so that we can grow together to understand each other better and be a better people. I can't even express to you some of the stuff that came out of that book study when we did it this first time this fall. Just some of the epiphanies, some of the awareness that people had. It was unreal. And so I'm just hoping that we have this opportunity for people to come together and dialogue and express their true feelings and their defenses and their wishes and hopes and all that stuff in a safe place. Yeah.
Well, and I think the thing that is so important is that we have to come together and have these tough conversations, and and talk about these questions that we have. If we don't do it, it's not going to happen. You're going to have just the things that you see on TV and the things that you hear on radio, and even some of the things that you read, and you don't get a chance to know me. Right. That's one of the things that is amazing, that you can have an opinion on me and you don't even know me. You don't know what I do, but yet you've already put me in a category. But it's going to take some hard dialogue. It's going to take some discussion, and it's going to take down some, sitting down in front of each other to understand each other, what's going on.
Yeah. And there's some moments when you're going to have to wrestle with your own thoughts, opinions, presuppositions, and come to some realities about maybe some things about yourself you don't like. And then you're going to have to deal with those and reckon with those. And then also learn some things about one another that maybe when I hear people talk, like here's a phrase, for example, when I hear a person that's a non-person of color say, well, I just don't see color. But that doesn't make me angry anymore. It doesn't make me angry anymore, because I don't ever think a person is saying that out of maliciousness. I think that they're saying that like as in trying to say, listen, man, I'm trying to see you as equal to me. What they don't understand, and this is why these conversations are cool, what they don't understand is when you say you don't see color, you're saying that there's a piece of me that you are closing your eye to in order for you to have a conversation with me, or in order for us to be in relationship. So really, you're discounting some of who I am in order to be in relationship with me. So I don't think that they even realize that what they're saying is a very offensive thing, but I don't take it offensive because I think that they mean well. And if a person means well, I got to at least give them grace to try to walk alongside. And then I can say, hey, you know, when you say that, that would be like the equivalent of me saying, well, I don't even see that you're a woman, or I don't see that you're a man. Well, of course I do. And because you are, I celebrate that part of you, and I celebrate all of you.
Well, you brought up a very, very interesting point about the dialogue. Having a church that is mixed and being where you're at, it's amazing to see that if we would get together and have a row of black men and a row of white men, and you take 15 minutes and you take 15 minutes just to talk, okay, you go, we would find out that we are a lot closer. We go to work, we come home, we want the big piece of chicken. We want, you know, because we worked. We want to be, you know, that big piece of chicken. We want our kids to have a better life than we did. We don't want them to struggle. We go to church on Sunday, and then we repeat cycle on Monday.
Yeah. There's so many more similarities than there are differences. And what's happened is we've locked into these differences, and we've made those the hallmark of how we live our lives. But we've got to celebrate our differences and respect the fact that we aren't all the same. And there are going to be some things that are different. But what are the things that we have in common that we can walk in step with?
Does it amaze you that some people look at us and think that we're less of Americans than they are because of skin color?
Does it amaze me? Honestly, no, not anymore. I think that people have a preconceived notion that somewhere they're inherently better than each other. I think everybody kind of has that to some degree. Then if I have positional authority, or if I have power, if I have wealth, or if I have privilege, whatever, then I'm culture has taught that to me. One of the things, not in this book, but in the second book that we're going to study, the lady says something like all white people are racist, but she says being a racist isn't bad. And when I first read that, I was like, whoa, what's she talking about? But what she says is being a racist isn't bad, no more than being a dark-skinned black person is bad. It is what it is. Or that's probably not even a good example. No more than being, a garbage man is bad. It is the context of what you are. And if I was born in the South, and here's a better illustration, because those were horrible. If I was born in the South and I had an accent, you wouldn't say, well, some people do say you have an accent, and they say that as though it's a bad thing, right?
Right.
And so I didn't choose my accent. I didn't ask to have an accent. I was born in a place where that's what it was. I think that racism is very similar to that. If I'm born into a place where I have privilege and where I know that when I grow up, I'm going to be able to get a job because my daddy had a job and he's going to have a friend who's going to be able to get me a job, or whatever the situation is, that's not a bad thing. It's something to recognize and to realize. And so I think that that's the place that she's coming from. So she attacks that word, which is always given to something negative. And she kind of just puts a spin on it to say, listen, let's not think about that in that way. Think about it as a matter of fact, and then let's respond to it. Are there things in my life, even me as an African-American male who lives in a middle-class situation, yada, yada, yada. Are there things about my life that I oppress other people because of how I live and how I think and what my worldview is? And I think so. I think all of us have that.
I'm looking at the polls, and I'm one that watch polls, and I'm one that watch numbers to see to try to keep my hand on the pulse of America. And it is amazing what depending on what side of the fence you are, what you believe. That there are more people that believe that there's no racism, no systemic racism, that with all the police shootings and stuff like that, that enough stuff has been done to rectify the situation. Then on the other side of the fence, then they said, have you lost your mind? This is racism is strong. It is nothing, not enough has been done in policing. So you see that. So it takes coming together to talk about these things to figure out how and where we're going to go next.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. What's better, Popeyes or Lee's?
Depending on what I want, man. I'm gonna say Lee's.
Okay. So Lee's is better. What if I disagree? Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
But it's my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't say that there's no racism. If you've experienced racism, I just can't say that. And so it's a lived experience. So a person can say, I have not experienced racism, but a person can't say there is no racism just because you haven't had it. And I'll say to you, you can't say that Lee's is better if you haven't had Popeye's sandwich. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I know. And before Beverly Wells and everybody go, I love Popeyes as well. So before y'all go down that rabbit hole, forget that.
Yeah, I don't want the radio station to get in trouble, but Kentucky Fried Chicken messed up when they changed their batter. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I don't know.
So let's talk about the 3 books. And
yeah,
before we were talking about, is it too late to get into study?
Yeah. So no, it's not. We are starting this Sunday, and there's going to be a few people who aren't going to be there this Sunday because it's the holiday, and I apologize for that. But no, it's not too late to get in, and people can email me and at my email address, and I know you have the flyer as well that has all of that information on it. We have 25 books, and I still have a few left. And so as long as there's books available, there's space available, or people can buy their own book. So we're starting this Sunday, and it's going to be an 8-week study for the first book for So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo. And we're going to do that one for 8 weeks. I'll take a short break, and then we're going to go into the second book, which is called White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. It's the most popular book on race out right now. And I didn't start with that book on purpose because it's a harder hitting book, and it's White Fragility. It kind of goes after whites, and that's not even the whites. It approaches being white and white privilege in a different way than the first book does. And I don't think that that's fair. Until people get context, I don't think it's fair for them to feel that, because it'll put you at defense. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to do that book for 8 weeks. And then the final book is called Woke Church. And it's more of a, how should the Christian faith look at this and approach this. And so that's the last book, which will be well into the fall of next year. But again, we have 25 books to give away, and for people to participate in the book study, not just to come get a free book, but to participate in the book study. And if I don't exhaust all those books in this study, then after we get done with Woke Church or whenever, I'm going to start the study over again. I'm going to do this as long as I feel like God is telling me to do it and have these conversations. I have watched people's lives be changed just by having a safe place to have the conversation. And that's the real thing, Greg, is I want people, if you feel like there's no racism, I want you to be able to say that without people going off and losing their mind on you. Because it's not about judgment, it's about understanding and growth. Mm-hmm. So the other thing I want to say is that the book studies are going to be in person. I wrestled with that, whether we do that or not, but just that face-to-face human interaction is going to be so critical to this conversation. We're going to do it at our church every Sunday. If the weather's good, we'll go outside and hang out just because it will be nice and beautiful. But yeah, so we're going to do those every Sunday, starting this Sunday for the next 8 weeks.
So we're proud to be a media sponsor, WBS 3.7 The Beat. We're proud to walk hand in hand with you on this journey. Now, talk to people about what to expect in the meet coming into this.
Yeah. So the first week we're going to come in and we're going to get to know each other, and we're going to talk about like the introduction in the first chapter. But what you can expect is some honest conversation. I have, like I said, I've led this book study prior. So I've been through this book twice in my own journey. And so I'll guide our conversation. I'll facilitate our conversation. I will bring up things that I think are going to help people to dialogue and have conversation, and maybe some things to challenge some people's thinking. I remember we did it before. This lady was saying something, and I happened to know her. And so I was able to say, can we unpack what you just said or how you just said it? And she was able to see some real biasness in what she said that she just wasn't even aware of. And this is one of my dearest friends. And so she was like, wow, I didn't even realize what I was doing. And I said, yeah, so just have that perspective. So people can it's going to be 2 hours each time. I mean, we're going to be there. There's 2 sessions. So I'm giving up my Sundays, right? Because I just feel passionate about this. So we're going to have church at our church. And then from 1:30 to 3:30 will be the first session. And then from 4:30 to 6:30 will be the second session. And so we'll do that. There's going to be snacks available. And then at the end of each book study, we're going to have dinner together as a whole group of people that would be a part of that to celebrate our journey together.
What do you say to the person that's at home and they want to do something, but they're a little timid?
Yeah,
because they're thinking that they're going to. It's just dog white people.
I'm not about that life. That's the first thing I'm gonna say. I'm not. So I live amongst everybody, right? And I just don't believe in that model. I believe that people are valuable, and I don't care wherever you are. That's where you are, and we're gonna go. Here's what I would say to them. Even though I just said all that, I promise to take care of you. I promise to take care of you. We had 27 people go through the study. And one of the other things we're going to do is we're going to have some feedback loops. So I'll ask some questions prior to you coming. You'll get an email saying, hey, what do you think about, or this is the question I want you to ask before you come in. And then after the session, I'll ask some questions, just so that we can keep the dialogue going. But at the end, we do an evaluation. Just because I want to keep that feedback. Part of the evaluation is about me as a facilitator, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things was that people said, Joe, I was really skeptical about doing this because of the content and the topic, but I trusted you, and you really made sure that we felt safe. And I'll be honest with you. A lot of times when we talk about racism, people I don't care about white people's feelings. They just need to know. I don't agree with that. I agree that if you're gonna get somebody, first of all, to see a perspective or to be willing to even look at a perspective, they've got to feel safe. They've got to feel like you're not going to put them in that situation. I don't want, if anybody comes to this and they feel like they're beat up, and if a person comes and they're beating up on somebody, that's not, we can't do that.
Or you coming and you feeling safe about getting out your emotions and stuff that you need to get out.
Absolutely. It's got to be a place. I'm telling you, I don't want to divulge anybody's privacy from our study, but some of the stuff that people shared, and it started like with sharing with me, maybe by an email. Then it went to whole group saying, listen, this is where I'm at, and this is how I'm feeling, and this is the things that I think I got to fix, and these are the things I feel really good about. It was amazing that people had, we only had 6 weeks, but that people will get 8 weeks to dialogue around some real life issues, and to be able to see it from different people's perspectives.
How important is it to see things from a different perspective, another person's perspective?
So I'm a pastor, so I'm gonna use a biblical reference to that. Whenever Jesus dealt with like the Sadducees and the Sadducees, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, he always met them at their perspective. Like he would say something like, well, you've heard it said so and so. Well, but I'm saying to you. So what he was doing was, this is your perspective, but let me give you another perspective. And so, he wasn't trying to beat up on people. He was just trying to say, well, this is how you think about it, but let me give you another way to think about it, another idea, another position, another thinking, and then consider that.
Yeah, a way that I think another example is that you have heard it, that is eye for eye, but tooth for tooth. But I say, because we have a lot of people right now stuck eye for eye, tooth for tooth with shootings and all the stuff that are going on right now.
There's another shooting since we've been on the radio.
Really?
Yeah. One of my friends who's a postal carrier downtown over Spring Street area, Catherine, she just posted that there was another shooting.
How important is this dialogue to even the shootings?
Here's why it's important, because, you said earlier, I didn't say Muskegon or Muskegon Heights. I said Muskegon County, because I am my brother's keeper. As it goes with Muskegon, it goes with North Muskegon. As it goes with Norton Shores, it goes with Ravenna. I mean, we've got to understand that a problem of gun violence isn't a problem for the poor Black people in inner city Muskegon. It's a problem for everybody. One of the things I'm grateful for, man, is our church is smack dab in the heart of downtown, and we got some folks who don't live there but don't have a problem coming there. Mm-hmm. And the moment that people have a problem coming to that building, I don't want you at the building. Mm. Mm. And let me say, I'm saying I don't want you. I don't have any. I mean, I'm the pastor. I don't run things. I mean, I'm the pastor, and God gives me vision. But I don't want to be in ministry with people who don't want to be in ministry with people.
Well.
The hardest thing and the best thing about our church are the same thing, and that's that we got a whole bunch of people who look different, and having to navigate that whole thing, man, is tough. I'll tell you what, Greg, this past November was the hardest moment I've ever had to pastor.
It was nuts.
And I tell our church every 4 years, I'm like, I know we could split, because we do have people who are on the right and on the left. We have, I don't espouse to a party. So, but we have people who are strong supporters on both sides.
Either way.
Yeah. And they're sitting next to each other in a pew. And I tell them the only thing that keeps us together is Jesus. So the only thing we need to be dealing with is Jesus.
Right. Right.
But I was talking to a friend of mine one time, and we were talking about race, and he said, from the religious context, he's like, but it's a sin issue. And I said, yes, it's a sin issue. I said, but it's a sin issue, but the specific sin might be racism. And so we've got to be honest enough to say that this is the issue. We do it if it was adultery. We would do it if it was drug addiction. We would do it if it was whatever. So sin in the context of racism or not treating somebody with respect and love is the same thing. And so we like to, I think culture likes to minimize racism and classism and all that stuff as a problem, not as a sin. And it's a sin.
Well, how important is this? Is that we get together, and like you said, that November was tough, but I get together and I'm frustrated and I'm mad. Yeah. If you look at, we had another mass shooting, and they said this guy was mad, angry, and upset, but we have a lot of people that are mad and angry because you are saying these things about me, mm-hmm. or you're putting me in this classification. How important is it for those walls to come down?
Well, it's critical. I mean, people are mad. What did Dr. King say? Riots are the voice of the unheard. I mean, you put a dog in a corner, it's going to bite you if it can't get out. And I'm not, espousing that we are dogs or that anybody's in that situation, but anybody who feels like they don't have a voice, who feels like they can't be heard, they are going to either fight, flight, or freeze. And right now we're just seeing a lot of people fighting. They don't know how to get out of what they're in and what things look like. And so they're like, it's a bad thing when you say, I'd rather die than live like I'm living.
I am amazed at how many people are fighting and swinging and don't know the true reason why they're fighting.
Well, yeah. Well, I think because life is so disparate, if that's even a word, that they can't know. They're like, listen, my job situation is jacked up. My family situation is jacked up. My neighborhood's jacked up. My money's, so I don't know which one of these things is really is the catalyst that got me out here feeling this way. So it just all is jacked up. So therefore I'm gonna just lose my mind. Mm-hmm. And so, but if I got somebody coming alongside of me, so I'll tell you, man, and I got to give a shout out to my play family. So I grew up with my mom and dad, but when I was like 11 years old, and some people will have a problem with this, and so I'm gonna just preface it with that. We talked about how we get it from both sides. So some people are gonna have a problem with this. I I was a paper boy in my neighborhood, and there was one family that ended up like just kind of loving on me. And then when I came back from college, and I was playing at an all-white church for like 6 years, and they went to that church and we reconnected. They became my family. And I always tell people, you've seen the movie The Blind Side. Well, I have a blind side family, right? Mm-hmm. The Bleasies, they are white. They're very white. If you can, I mean, they're from Wisconsin. They are upper middle class. But we grew up in the same neighborhood. But they took me on, and this is the thing, man. Never once, and I've been with them since I was 17 years old. Greg, I'm 49. Every Christmas Eve, I have been at their house since I was 17. I spend Christmas. My family spends Christmas with them. We all have ornaments on their Christmas tree. Yada yada yada. When my sisters Holly and Heather started dating, Bill, my play dad, he was like, "So have y'all met Joe yet?" And he's like, "Good luck, because that's their brother, and he's gonna put you through it." He never tells anybody I'm black though. Like he doesn't even use it. It's not that he don't see it. It's not that they don't recognize it. Matter of fact, I know they do, because when they moved into their new house, they went around to all their neighbors and said, "By the way, our son comes over periodically when we're not home, and we just want you to know that he'll be here. He drives a white van, blah, 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 blah," and still didn't tell them I was black. And then the first neighbor was like, hey, how you doing? I was like, "Hi, I'm Joe." And they were like, oh, okay. But they've never utilized it. When George Floyd died, I went to them, and I'm going to get emotional. I said, "I just want to thank y'all, because y'all have been good to me." And that's not like I don't feel any endearment to them because they're white, and they're not better than me. Matter of fact, get this. When I was 19 years old, Bill won a trip, and they went on a trip because he was a salesman, and his daughters are 16 and 14. And he was like, "Joe, we're going on a trip for a week. I need you to stay with the girls." Wow. So this man let a 19-year-old boy stay at his house alone for a week while he went to New York with his wife, with his two 16 and 14-year-old daughters.
How you bring up a very interesting point. How important is that we get to know each other so we can do these very things? And I'm amazed because in neighborhoods, there are people that don't even know their neighbor.
Right.
And okay, so you got a chance to meet a family, and you guys bond, and he trusted you with his kids. I don't see that village mentality happening a lot now.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is we don't trust one another. And I don't want anybody in, maybe I can say it like this. I got stuff. And it's kind of like that crab mentality. I don't want you to know my stuff, because if you know my stuff, then you're going to know that I'm not perfect. And so I don't want you to know my stuff, because I want you to see me as perfect as I'm done with perfect. I'm done with perfect,
because we're not perfect.
Right.
We're not perfect. So back to the book study.
Yeah, I was just looking at this guy Jack Page, his statement. You feel endearment probably because they're human. Period. Great point that your mentor doesn't even see. Yeah, I mean, I love the Bleasies because they love me. I happen to be black, and that's not lost on them. But I love them. And it's not been a race issue. They are more sensitive, and this is the beautiful thing. They are so sensitive to issues on race and stuff like that because of me.
Wow, they took that chance,
huh?
They took that chance,
yeah,
to know you,
bro.
my thing is that throughout my years of running for office or president of JCs or whatever, I've been in areas where I wanted to show people that what you think of me is wrong. This is who I am. And I think that is very important, that people get a chance to know who I am.
Well, and why do they think that of you though? Because that doesn't come from you. That comes from what they've experienced or heard or seen in other places. So that's another reason that I love what I do, because I'm in situations where up until last week, I was the first and only African-American administrator ever at Reese Buffer. And I was the first Black teacher at Orchard View, the first Black administrator ever to be hired at Orchard View. Here's the thing that I like about that is that whatever your thoughts on people and Black people is, if it doesn't jive with who I am, you're forced to have to say, wait a minute, but he is Black and he's not like I thought. So therefore, now I got to do some wrestling with it.
Mm-hmm. Talk how important it is. Like, you're the first person that I know that has ever did something like this. Being the first African-American to be the president of JC's, the first one to run for the 92nd seat. There's a first one, how important it is to get off your lazy boy. And if you see a problem or something that needs to be done, get out there and do something about it.
That's the bottom line. I mean, I can never complain about what's not being done if I'm not doing anything. So, and how I do it.
But I don't want to interrupt you. Would you say that again, please?
I can never complain about what's not being done if I'm not doing anything. So I may not do it the way you would do it, but I've got to do something. So like when I think about these young boys and these shootings and whatnot, back, not the most recent ones, but prior to that last year, there wasn't a shooting that happened, that I didn't know somebody connected to it, whether it was a kid who was killed or the kid who was shooting or somebody I knew. And so my desire to make change is I make change through the things that I do, through the places that I go. So in addition to the fact that I'm a pastor, I'm grateful to be a pastor, but that's a minimal part of my ministry. You know, when I have that camera around my neck and I'm walking through a football field or on a basketball court and these kids want me to take their picture, that's connection. Mm-hmm. So I meet these kids and then I can say, hey, bro, little bro, you can't be doing so and so and so and so, or talking to them about life and taking senior pictures and asking kids where they're going and encouraging them and inspiring them to do different things. That's how I make the impact. I'm not the guy who's probably going to stand on the corner and stop kids from shooting, but I'm going to know these kids so that I can try to influence their life and impact what they're doing in the way that I know, in the way that I see it to be done. So being the first, I don't know why I was the first. I just happened to be the one that was there, and I did not do it because I felt like it was a calling on my life.
Well, Pastor Joe, talk about how important, because as I was talking with my wife, I was like, I cannot sit and I may not be prevalent or in the streets like I used to be, but I can't sit and watch this happen, these shootings happen. There's got to be something that I can do. How important is it that we do something or stand in that lazy boy where it's comfortable?
Well, if you stay in the lazy boy, then expect things to not change and to get worse. And there's nothing you can say about it. There's no complaining. There's none of that. Just be quiet and let it happen. So I think it's critical that we all find wherever our niche is, whatever our way is, whatever, So like I work in the schools and all I'm doing is like, hey, I'm telling kids constantly that they got to do positive things. The more positive things you do, the less negative things you can do. I mean, that's just math, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm just trying to, and I'm trying to show all kids, but especially the African-American kids, that listen, I came from some strange backgrounds, and not necessarily the wealthiest house, and my parents didn't have the greatest marriage or whatever. I came from some stuff, but that doesn't prohibit you from becoming what you want to be. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, man, it's crazy because like I have a ton of kids. I've been in the lives of over 10,000 students since I started teaching, right? Most of them are white. And the amount of kids that I am engaged with and connect with and talk to about real life situations, I wish some of them were on here and they just start blowing up this Facebook page, because these are my babies. I'm talking, they're not babies anymore. They're 35, 36, 37.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah,
you know, of
exactly.
coaching, you know,
I,
of ministry, youth ministry, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
These are my babies.
Right. The amount of funerals and weddings that I've done where I've been the only Black person in the entire room. And the kids are like, Mr. Lane, nobody else is going to marry me but you.
Mm.
And I'm the only funerals of kids' parents. And I'm the only Black person in the room.
Wow. And I can concur because I've been there a lot. Because let me do this. It was the top of the hour. You're watching Torn at 2 on WVS and M106. It's 3:00. We're getting ready to wind down. But I've been in that room, and I've been in that room a lot. I've family reunions and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't have these honest conversations like these books that you have and this book study, we're gonna stay stuck. We're gonna stay stuck on stupid.
Can I maybe share one point in the book that might be a good teaser for people?
Absolutely.
So she's talking about racism, and so the name of this chapter is called "Is It Really About Race?" And she says she's talking about the idea, because I think that a lot of the reason that we have these disconnects and stuff that are going on in our world is fear. Like, and so I'm afraid that you're going to get more than me. So therefore, I've got to make sure that I keep you thumb down on you or whatever. And so she says this. She's like, race has also become a lie. Race was not only created to justify a racial exploitative economic system. It was invented to lock people of color into the bottom of it. Right. And so then she goes on and she says this phrase, and this is probably, in my opinion, it's been the most powerful phrase in the entire book to me. She goes, so understand that there are a group of people, and she's talking about white people, would say, you will get more, they would get more, because there's another group of people who exist to get less.
Wow.
And so that when I read that line on page 12, I went back to being 12 years old in my neighborhood where we had everybody, except for Asians. We had Black, Mexican, Latina, white. We had everybody in my neighborhood within 3 blocks, every racial demographic except for Asians that you could think of. And the kid across the street from me used to call me the N-word every day when I was 12 years old. Our financial situations were the same. Our family makeups were the same. But when I read that line, I never understood why he would treat me so poorly. And his little brother used to chase me around and throw snakes on me. I never understood why they treated me like that. But the reason they treated me like that was because they needed somebody to be less than them, because they couldn't get more unless there was somebody who was in position to always get less.
Wow.
I mean, why?
I mean, you bring up something that American, we're supposed to be the big experiment, the big gumbo, the big jambalaya. We've been thrown in this melting pot to be this country where all men are created equal and all this kind of stuff. But yet across the street, you got your neighbor calling you the N-word.
But
go ahead.
Right. Not even across the street. But why is it that we can live in Muskegon County and we can have the #1 performing school district and the number 756 performing school district 12 miles from each other? And no one has a problem with that.
Oh, to take that even further, when I said that with the shootings are not just a Muskegon or Muskegon Heights problem, it's a Muskegon problem.
Right.
Is that you can have like the #1 and #2 school, but you can have the number 12th or number 13th school. But also, if you look at Muskegon, if you look at where we lead in STDs and pregnancies and all this kind of stuff, if we're not our brother's keeper, we're going to continue to lead in these negative categories.
We have the highest and the lowest performing school district in the same county. It's because I need you to get less so that I can continue getting more. So I don't want you on the same level as me. I don't want you in the same playing field as me.
Pastor, I know I'm stopping you, but
no, you're good.
You need to hear what he just said again. Would you go ahead and repeat what you just said?
Yeah, I mean, we're not on the same. I don't want you on the same playing field, because if you're on the same playing field as me, then we might be equal, and I don't want you to be equal. There's not enough. People don't believe that there's enough to go around for us to be equal. I mean, and you don't just see it in racism. You don't just see it in class. You see it in everything. You talk to people in. I don't want to use the district that I work in, but you can go to any school district that has more than one elementary school and see if people will talk to you about those elementary schools being exactly equal, or will they start hierarchying them and saying, "Oh, well, this school is better than this school is better than this school." There's always competition, in your neighborhood. Whether your neighborhood's great or your neighborhood's bad, who's got the biggest house on the street, whose grass is the nicest. And if your grass starts to get better, then I'm going out and I'm going to buy some fertilizer.
Mm-hmm. How important is we as Black people really get out there and we have a lot of people that, like I said earlier in the show, they go to work, they go shop at stores, they go home, go to church on Sunday, repeat cycle. But how important is it that we get out in the community? Because I believe a lot of things that are going on in the community can't be solved by the chief of police. A lot of these things have to be solved by us.
Yeah, well, I think that if you look at historically, if you look at any movement of our world, the movements were really fostered by and led by the people, not by a person. Dr. King couldn't do what he did by himself. It's got to be led by the people. And if we want change, if we want things to be different, then we got to be the people to do it. As a pastor of the church, I talk a lot about the ministry of multiplication, that I can do addition by me going out and adding people or whatever. But one of our hallmarks is to make each member a minister. I want everybody in our church to be able to share the gospel, to be able to share the love of Christ, to be able to do what they're doing. When we first started our church, I knew every single person, and most of the people were there because I was the pastor, right? 40% of the people were students of mine or their families. We don't have that situation anymore. 18 years later, there's people who come to our church that I don't know. I don't know how they got there. I don't know. And I love it, because that means that somebody else is doing the work too.
Right. So we're winding down here. Yeah. Let's talk about, again, how do people get involved in the Citywide book study, where you're gonna facilitate this, and we're gonna get down and talk the nitty-gritty about racism.
Yeah. So starts on Sunday. If you want to, you could on Sunday, you can just show up at our church at 1:30 or 4:30, and we can get you signed up and all that good stuff. Which is 1624 Hoyt Street, Hackley, right behind Hackley Hospital, New Life Christian Center. And or you can email me at lanejoel@yahoo.com, or you can call me 231-736-9873.
Lady J, can you put that flyer up again? I know it's in the middle of our Facebook. Can you put that up real quick so people can see? Thank you very much. People, that's the information right there. Share this right there. It's going to be a very important thing. And I want to thank you, Pastor Joe, for doing this, because a lot of people are ducking and dodging when it comes down to racism.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do.
Well, I think
know how to address it.
Right. This is about racism, but it's about relationships. So, I mean, racism will be the catalyst that we use to deal with this, but it's about building relationships and knowing one another. If you're computer savvy, that little link that's on there, you can go to that. That's the Google form where you actually do the sign up, and that gives me all the numbers, and it will give me your email and all that good stuff that we can do the communication.
Okay. I'm going to sign up. Brother, I want to thank you so much. And I just know that I appreciate you so much for doing what you do.
Well, and
I'm going to be, me and my wife, we're going to be in a group anyway.
Right. And likewise, man, I mean, and there's lots of things that Torn in Two could be talking about, especially today. And I'm grateful that this happens to be the thing on the docket.
Okay. That's Pastor Joe Lane. And thank you, sir. You take care.
All right. See you Sunday.
All right. All right, people. We're getting ready to end the show, but I want to talk. It's Memorial Day. And Memorial Day, we remember the people that fought that died for this country so we can have these conversations, that we can do what we're doing, to live how we live, but they paid the ultimate price. And a lot of you spend the time to also to remember loved ones like our mothers and stuff like that. I really need you this Memorial Day to take a deep look at this country, because this country is divided. It is divided. It's divided racism. It's divided on, you name it, money. It's divided. And the only way that we're going to do something about this is take bold steps and do what Pastor Joe Lane has done, is say, I'm going to do a citywide book study on racism. Get involved. If you're not involved, you're part of the problem. Happy Memorial Day weekend to you. You've been listening and watching Torn in Two. You take care. You have a great weekend. God bless.
The wait is over. The all-new Umoja Radio Network, home to over 40 Black-owned radio stations and podcasts, is here for you. Connect to the world's fastest-growing collection of unapologetically Black and proud media, from podcasts to independent Black-owned radio stations, and access to the important news and